Be it the concept of yin and yang, or even duality for that matter, balance runs this world. And if you're a testosterone charged young gun like me, balance is what we look for in our very first motorcycle. Balance between performance and fuel efficiency. And lucky for you, in this video we have compared 4 160cc motorcycles that strike this balance just right. And no, this video wouldn't include just me sitting here, cramming through the spec sheet and blabbering bullshit, because this is the real deal. This is Anand Pandey and you are watching BBC Top Gear Mag India.
We have creative. They try to take it, I'm getting it back. And if they hit me, they gotta get taxed. I'm making hit after hit after hit, and I promise you, boy, every one of them slap. Hop on a verse and I body it quick. They never work, and it's why we don't mix. I don't got time for the fake, and I swear that I'll always say real, something they never did.
And when you're talking about performance commuter motorcycles, it would be a sin not to pay homage to the quintessential 150cc motorcycle, the Bajaj Pulsar, and the rivalry it sparked with yet another homegrown bike maker. Let's take a walk down the memory lane. So Bajaj woke up one day and decided to revolutionize the Indian motorcycling scenario. In 2001, when it introduced the legendary Pulsar moniker, its tagline "Definitely male" would definitely offend a lot of people in today's day and age, but boy, were they brute and handsome motorcycles. The public reception was so wild that Bajaj had to consecutively update both the Pulsar 150 and the Pulsar 180. Come 2005, and Bajaj had one more reason to constantly evolve, as an arch rival was born, hailing from the same homeland. Piggybacking on the brand's racing legacy, TVS took the fight straight to the Bajaj camp, and it did send some shivers down their spine. Mid-range was where the Bajaj Pulsar absolutely decimated the competition. Couple that with DTSI technology, backlit switchgear and other set of features, and Bajaj had a clear winner at their hand. Back in Hosur, and TVS was also sending the Apache to its surgeons for a thorough makeover year after year. Better disc brakes, fuel injection, dual channel ABS, race throttle response. Apache had its own set of bullets in the chamber with Pulsar written on it. A good rivalry pushes the rivals to go the extra mile, to constantly evolve, just to one up the other one. And that is exactly what the Bajaj Pulsar and the TVS Apache monikers have been doing all these years. And looking at their current iterations and how they have evolved, Charles Darwin would be proud.
They saying that I'm up next. I told them that I'm up.
And before we get down to the actual ride experience, it is essential for me to paint a brief character sketch of all the motorcycles present in this comparison review. The TVS Apache RTR 162V might have received its latest update just a few months back, but in terms of outright engineering, it is still the oldest gun of the lot. Its design philosophy might be ancient by today's standards, but it still looks like a boy racer with clip-on handlebar, aggressive riding stance, and compact dimensions. Frequent technical and mechanical advancements, dripping down its racetrack learnings to its road-going motorcycles, have been TVS's strongest suits ever since from day one. And the RTR 162V carries forward the same tradition rather well, with host of upgrades including LED headlight, fatter, stickier TVS Remora tire, updated instrument cluster with Bluetooth connectivity, 3 ride modes, urban, rain and sport, more power from the air-cooled 160cc 2-valve engine, and 2 kilograms less weight. The Apache RTR 162V might be an old gun, but it packs quite some firepower. Remember the term boy racer? Well, you actually sit like one on the 162V. The cram dimensions might add some essence to it, but if you're slightly more accommodating, either vertically or horizontally, you will have to shake hands with this devil and trade in some of your comfort. Since we are talking about motorcycles with familiar silhouettes, let's jump to the Bajaj Pulsar NS160, the predator, the naked wolf of the lot, which has become even more menacing with its latest update, as it now gets upside down forks, fatter rubber, and a bunch of other upgrades, while retaining the beam perimeter frame and the high revving 160.3cc 4-valve oil-cooled motor. The NS160, it is the second most powerful motorcycle in this comparison, and once you cook this broth, the aroma will definitely entice an enthusiast. The NS160 is also a pristine example of clinging to the roots, just like the RTR 162V, because the design philosophy of the NS160 is almost a decade old. So is the instrument cluster and the other set of features. However, it does have a few neat readouts like the average, distance to empty and the likes, but it loses out on Bluetooth connectivity. The NS160, now it does get clip-on handlebar, but they are slightly more raised. So despite the fact that they are clip-ons, the riding stance is almost similar to what we are accustomed of seeing in a naked street fighter. While these motorcycles herald the fusion of modern-day technology with familiar silhouettes and engineering, major transformation has happened with these motorcycles, the TVS Apache RTR 164V and the Bajaj Pulsar N160. The TVS Apache RTR 164V has been the crown king of the segment. So every other new entrant in this segment has to either bow down to it or go to war. And with this kind of formidable package, most rivals prefer the former. For starters, it is the most powerful motorcycle in its class, has the best set of features and good riding dynamics. Now to strengthen the kingdom's defense, the king should have enough ammunition in its armory, and looking at the package the RTR 164V is, it does have enough of it. The design language of the RTR 164V feels more fresh and more modern as compared to the NS160 and the RTR 162V for that matter. The list of features is also very long as it gets Bluetooth-enabled instrument cluster, 3 ride modes, adjustable clutch and brake lever, LED headlight, and then some more. The riding stance of the Apache RTR 164V is the most neutral of the lot, and it strikes a good balance between being comfortable and being slightly aggressive. And that has been made possible by a wide handlebar and slightly rear set foot fix. Then there's the last motorcycle of the lot, the Bajaj Pulsar N160. It had 2 options to choose from: to bow down in front of the king or choose bloodlust and go to war. And with the looks of it, it definitely preferred the latter. It retains the same underpinnings as the N250. Same, exact, because be it the suspension or the tires or the brakes, the N160 borrows its cycle parts from the N250. In fact, when I first rode it, the N160 left me scratching my head because I couldn't find any major fault in it, and that is saying something. In terms of looks, this is certainly one of the best looking packages here, accentuated by signature Pulsar tail lamp setup and LED projector headlamp up front. The infinity display borrowed from the N250 might look more modern as compared to the NS160, but both the Apaches trump the Pulsars in the features department. The riding stance of the N160 is a little weird though, because despite having wide handlebar like a street fighter should, they mimic the posture provided by clip-ons. And then there's a sweet sound produced by the underbelly muffler. In fact, let's hear how these motorcycles sound like. जब तक पेट्रोल पावर्ड मोटरसाइकिल से सुन लेते हैं भाई, बाद में तो मालूम भी नहीं पड़ेगा बाजू में से क्या गया. Do let us know in the comment section below which motorcycle sounds the best according to you.
In terms of features and build quality, both the TVS Apaches have a clear upper hand as they feel a tad bit more special as compared to the Bajaj Pulsars. It is not like the Pulsars are poorly built, but it feels like the Apaches were built and developed with a bit more love and attention. Love and attention, that is exactly what us men need sometimes, don't we?
The numbers on the spec sheet are very closely stacked, but we have ridden these motorcycles for around 400 kilometers in a single day, so it is very much rational to do this. Because the numbers, they don't paint a picture of how different these motorcycles are. But for the nerds out there, here's how the numbers stack up. Pause the screen, scram through it, and let yours truly paint a picture of how different these motorcycles are. Starting off with the Apache RTR 162V, my goodness, this motorcycle has been around since ages, but it still delivers the thrills you expect from an Apache. The 160cc 2-valve motor now makes more power, making it as fast as the 164V. But this is not about sibling rivalry, because when it comes to outright character, both the motorcycles have their own personality. The 2V has character while the 4V has manners. Despite being an old motorcycle when it comes to engine architecture and underpinnings, it is safe to say that the 2V still has some life left. The cramped and slightly aggressive riding stance also add to the overall ride experience, while the engine, it also plays its part really well with its peppy and linear performance. But the Apache RTR 160 is the least refined motorcycle of this lot, and the vibrations, they keep reminding you of the Apaches of the bygone era. The suspension setup, it is also very basic and there's nothing sophisticated about it, because the front end, it dives a lot under hard braking and bottoms out on large potholes. Now that being said, the suspension setup, it does iron out bumps really well, but the fact that it is an old motorcycle is felt all the time. While the 2V is that rebellious kid which refused to grow up, the Apache RTR 164V is that responsible kid which every parent wishes for, because it excels in almost each and every department. But the most notable difference between both the motorcycles, the 2V and the 4V, is the overall refinement on offer. The Apache RTR 164V is almost as refined as the Bajaj Pulsar N160, because unlike the N160, the Apache RTR 164V has some top-end surge as well, because it hits the rev limiter in almost each and every gear without showing any signs of constraint. So much so that I hit the rev limiter on multiple occasions while exiting a corner, because the seamless power delivery had me thinking that it still had some poke left. Given that this is the most powerful motorcycle in this stress and the way power is delivered, it is safe to say that this has the highest comfortable cruising speed out of all the 4 motorcycles, making it the best tourer of the lot. What also makes the Apache RTR 164V the ideal child of the family is the balance it strikes between being comfortable while having a slightly sportier side to it, because not only the suspension setup glides over rough surfaces, but it also supports the chassis really well while attacking the corners. And the braking is on point too, but there is a very big difference when it comes to the braking department of the Apaches and the Pulsars, and it is that the Apaches make do with a single channel ABS while both the Pulsars get dual channel ABS. The RTR 164V might be the topper of the class, but the Bajaj Pulsar N160 is that bright child which also has a slightly badass side to it. I mean, look at the stance. In terms of refinement, the N160 is even better than the RTR 164V, which is owned by a member of a TG clan, Murthy. I'm pretty sure that if that were a new unit, both the motorcycles would have been even more closely stacked when it comes to overall refinement, but for now, it is the N160 which takes the lead in that department. Remember the mid-range grunt which made the Pulsars a huge freaking hit amongst the youngsters? Well, the N160 is a true blue Pulsar in that regard. It might be the least powerful motorcycle in its class, but it makes almost the same torque figures as the RTR 164V, and the overall performance figures, they arrive a little earlier in the rev range. The same mid-range grunt makes the N160 a very lively motorcycle, but up until 90 km per hour. And above that, it struggles to keep up with the 4V and the 2V for that matter. Slightly more top-end rush would have made the N160 a clear winner in terms of outright power and character. But what all of us could agree in unison is that the N160 has the best soundtrack of all the motorcycles in this comparison test, and to me, it definitely adds to the overall ride experience. Another thing worth mentioning about the N160 is that it has the best illumination out of all the motorcycles, because it has a LED projector headlamp which has a very nice throw as well as intensity. The riding dynamics, now they affirm the baddest side of the N160, because compared to the 4V, it feels very much taut. And couple that with the riding stance and you always wish to be in the attack mode, going hard on the throttle, with the balance of the chassis providing you much needed confidence. I found the N160 to be slightly more comfortable as compared to the 164V, but my colleagues had different opinions. To each their own. But what all of us could agree on is that the N160 is a killer package, and it plasters a smile on your face during the twisties as well. During this test, the N160 also managed to flaunt its sport and braking performance, given the big front disc and dual channel ABS. The N160 might lack top-end rush, but there's another Pulsar for that. The one for the enthusiast, the Pulsar NS160. Now the 160cc 4-valve motor might be the star of the show, but you should know what you are signing up for before committing to this relationship. It is not always sunny when it comes to the NS160, because it lacks a low-end grunt as compared to the other motorcycles in its class, but once you keep the throttle pinned, the NS160, it delivers in spades. It really comes alive after 6000 RPM and hits rev limiter in each and every gear. You combine that with the beam perimeter frame and the USD fork, and we have a proper corner carver at our disposal.
It attacks corners like a rabid dog, and we found it to be the most able handler of this lot. And that too without trading in ride quality. Because despite the firmness of the suspension setup, the NS160, it soaks up bumps really well, and it wouldn't break your back or any other body part for that matter. Even in terms of braking, the NS160 impresses a lot because you have the backing of a potent braking setup. Sure, the NS160, it might the overall refinement of the 164V and the N160 and might lack some features as well. But when it comes to riding spiritedly, all of us could agree that the NS160 would hunt each and every motorcycle in this class and wouldn't even flinch doing it. These motorcycles might have a small displacement, but take my word for it, it is absolutely thrilling to ride them fast. The reason why we haven't talked about fuel efficiency and their pricing until now. In terms of overall fuel economy, both the Apaches take the lead with the 2V clocking almost 49 km per litre, while the 4V managed to deliver 47 km per litre. The NS160 was the least fuel efficient as it delivered around 42 km per litre, while the N160 comfortably sat in the middle with 44 km per litre. In a rather unsurprising turn of events, the Bajaj Pulsar NS160 is the most expensive of the lot, while the RTR 162V is the most affordable. Both the N160 and the RTR 164V, just like ARC rivals should, are priced almost in the similar price bracket with only a few pennies to differentiate between them. When it comes to commuting, apart from the NS160 which demands you keep it on boil all the time, all the motorcycles here are very tractable. But the Apaches have a neat addition to their already long feature list, TVS's own GTT or glide through technology, which allows the motorcycles to crawl at certain speeds in traffic without the need to give them any throttle input. We had to ride these motorcycles back to back extensively to gauge the differences in their personality, which the spec sheet isn't going to tell you. So I suggest that you do the same. Go take a test ride of all the 4 motorcycles and decide for yourself that which motorcycle suits your personality the best. The RTR 162V, now it might pack some punch, but it is an old boxer and there are new boxers in town which pack more finesse. The Pulsar NS160, now this is a curious case in itself, backed up by a very huge cult following. Like I said earlier, if riding spiritedly is high on your priority list, look no further than the NS160. But this segment, it is all about striking a balance, and when it comes to that, both the Pulsar N160 and the RTR 164V take the charge ahead for their iconic monikers. To this point, I'm not entirely sure that which motorcycle out of these 2 motorcycles should be tagged as a clear winner. The RTR 164V, it has everything going for it because it is a complete package, given that it has the most powerful engine in this class, has the best set of features and strikes a good balance between ride quality and agility. But I couldn't connect with this motorcycle, probably because it required a major service. It is the N160 which I connected with the most during this comparison review, and the only major gripe that I have with this motorcycle is the absence of top-end rush. Features don't matter to me that much if the overall ride experience makes up for it, and this is the reason why I would place my hard-earned money on this mean-looking street fighter. To each their own, but there's one thing for sure. Even after 2 decades of this iconic rivalry, the Bajaj Pulsar and the TVS Apache are still at it, pushing each other to become the best version of themselves. So much so that they have even surpassed the Japanese. Or have they?